Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, June 21st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's now come to be. COVID shots are finally available for the youngest kids. The vaccination, both a relief and a concern to many parents. Here's KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman.
COVID vaccinations for kids 5 to 6 months old are officially underway in San Diego.
1, 2, 3, youngsters. Boop. We're done.
Hundreds of parents made appointments at Rady Children's Hospital on the first day shots were made available.
Just really happy to finally have the opportunity to. Yeah, because we've been pretty pretty much isolating ourselves as much as we could to protect her.
Rancho Penasquitos resident Aram Chiasarafin and his wife jumped at the chance to have their 3-year-old daughter Zara vaccinated.
We have a book about pandemics and a book about vaccines and like a kid's board book, so she knows. We've talked to her about it, and she knows she's doing her part in protecting not only herself, but everybody else.
You want to pet the doggy?
Therapy poodle Crystal was on hand to help relax kids not so excited to see needles.
It's so fast. Does it still hurt?
2.5-year-old Wolfgang made a quick turnaround.
You got your vaccine today? He got his COVID vaccine today.
His mom, Lisa, says both of her kids are now finished with their first round of vaccinations.
It's a little bit of a relief. I know there's a lot of unknowns with this virus, and I feel that the benefits outweigh the risk to have the vaccine versus to have COVID and not know what might happen with that.
5-year-old Valentino says the shot was quick, but
It feels weird.
it felt weird. His mom says they've been looking forward to this day.
We knew for our family it was right because Valentino actually has asthma. So we were waiting for his birthday to come, and once we knew he turned 5, we were immediately ready to get his vaccine.
Kids are generally at a lower risk from COVID-19, but infections can still be severe. Rady's vaccine clinic is by appointment only. Reservations here and elsewhere in the county can be booked on the state's myturn.ca.gov website.
There are no supply issues.
County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says the vaccines are safe for kids and encourages parents to reach out to their providers.
The FDA has approved these vaccines. CDC has approved these vaccines.
Doses for kids under 5 are expected to be at county sites starting on Wednesday. Some pharmacies will also have them available.
You did it. Would you like a sticker?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Can you say thank you?
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And there are options to get the vaccine for a young child beyond a pediatrician. Retail pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens are ready to administer doses. CVS is requiring an appointment scheduled online. Walgreens is also asking customers to book an appointment. As the Supreme Court mulls over an abortion case that could overturn Roe versus Wade, state legislators are taking action to ensure California women have access to medical procedures. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has more on that effort and what it could mean for the November election.
California lawmakers are not waiting to see what happens to Roe versus Wade. They've already begun passing legislation to protect abortion rights, including a proposed constitutional amendment.
We anticipate very disheartening that the leaked Supreme Court decision that would undo Roe versus Wade.
Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins of San Diego is the author of several of those bills, including the amendment. SCA 10, the Reproductive Privacy Act, reads in part that every individual possesses a fundamental right of privacy with respect to personal reproductive decisions. Atkins says the right to abortion must be spelled out in the Constitution to guarantee it.
We have had the luxury of the right to privacy in our state constitution. However, that leaked opinion put that in question. It basically said that the right to privacy is not guaranteed by Roe versus Wade. That causes some issues in California because our right to abortion is also centered on that right to privacy. So we want to enshrine in the California Constitution that we have the right to abortion, not just privacy, as we have defined it in the past for the last 50 years.
SCA 10 has already been passed by the state Senate and is making its way through the Assembly. But as a constitutional amendment, it must also go before the voters on the November ballot.
I do have faith in the voters.
Our poll showed that after people read this article about abortion rights, that they were much more likely to say that they would definitely vote in November, so that effect was strongest among Democrats. And we also saw that effect was particularly strong among young women.
Thad Kauser is the co-director of the Yankelovich Center, which does social science research at UC San Diego. They just released a survey that shows having a constitutional amendment about abortion on the ballot could impact other races.
If those suburban voters turn out strongly because of protecting a woman's right to choose with this constitutional amendment, that could challenge those Republican incumbents and make it harder for that Republican challenger to unseat Mike Levin.
We reached out to abortion rights opponents for comment, but did not receive a reply. The California Family Council, a group opposed to abortion rights, has called SCA 10 extreme and deadly. They're planning a March for Life rally at the state capitol on Wednesday. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
If you can boil down the latest January 6th hearing to one word, it might be pressure. Election officials from several states say people close to former President Trump wanted the results changed regardless of legality. Isabel Rosales wraps up today's testimony.
You're a threat to democracy!
Threats of death and violence. State officials say it's what they face from President Trump's supporters who showed up outside their homes and offices following the 2020 election.
The punishment for treason is death.
The uncertainty of that was what was the fear. Like, are they coming with guns? Are they going to attack my house?
Officials saying they were also hit with a slew of harassing phone calls from the Trump campaign.
You do have the power to reclaim your authority.
All while experiencing what some officials described as immense intimidation tactics from the top office in the land, the most powerful man in the world, to overturn the 2020 election results. Officials say they refuse to cave to the pressure.
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say and how that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence.
The investigative committee shining a light on false allegations of a secret suitcase full of fraudulent ballots and dead voters in Georgia.
They're putting ballots that are prepared to be scanned into ballot carriers that are then sealed with tamper-proof seals so that they can, they're not messed with.
They alleged 10,315 dead people. We found 2 dead people when I wrote my letter to Congress that's dated January 6th. And subsequent to that, we found 2 more.
In never-before-seen testimony, former Attorney General Bill Barr says the Justice Department launched an investigation into President Trump's claims that the election was stolen.
Based on our review of it, including the interviews of the key witnesses, the Fulton County allegations had no merit.
In Washington, I'm Isabel Rosales.
The next scheduled hearing for the January 6th committee is Thursday with an updated start time. Coverage will begin at noon Pacific. We'll have live coverage on KPBS FM, KPBS 2 on television, and streaming at kpbs.org. The city of Poway will consider activating a new alert tip line at tonight's council meeting. Mayor Steve Voss says the goal is to have a 24-hour line available to residents concerned someone may be planning an act of violence. Officials say in virtually all mass casualties, the perpetrator displayed behavioral warning signs that were noted by family, friends, and others, but went unreported. The Poway line would not replace 911, and callers could remain anonymous. When you're out in public, who has a right to watch you? And what are they allowed to do with that information? KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer with some late changes to a controversial new surveillance proposal before the San Diego City Council.
The surveillance ordinance was crafted following revelations 2 years ago that San Diego's energy-efficient streetlights carried cameras and microphones. In a lengthy and spirited city council meeting Monday, many of the roughly 90 people who spoke favored the ordinance to regulate San Diego's surveillance tools. But San Diego Police Chief Dave Nislett had reservations.
Anything that reduces relationships with state, local, or local and federal partners is not wise.
He told the council that the ordinance, without an amendment to exempt officers who work on joint task forces with other law enforcement, would minimize his department's impact. Genevieve Jones-Wright says the amendment blindsided many in the SD Trust Coalition who have been working on the ordinance for 2 years.
This is an ambush. This is exactly why trust in our government is not a thing.
Supporters said the ordinance already made allowances for security interests and federal task force concerns. Janine Ericat, a policy associate at Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, urged the council to quickly pass the ordinance without any amendments.
San Diegans have a right to our privacy, and any amendments can and will open the floodgates of increased surveillance, like so many have pointed out today, and in particular our Black, brown, Muslim communities, and in the light of Roe v. Wade, women all across San Diego.
By in a close 5-4 vote, the City Council approved the amendment after Police Chief Nislett described what would happen if the change to the ordinance was not made.
Based on the fact that you even heard it here, that the non-disclosure agreements would be null and void, I believe I have no choice but to remove my officers from task force.
Because of the amendment, the proposed surveillance ordinance will come back before council on July 19th. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
A surge in violence against the gay community as the country celebrates Pride Month. Several parades and events have faced disruptions or attacks from domestic extremist groups. Jason Carroll looks at the rise in hate speech targeting the community.
The arrest of members of the white supremacist group Patriot Front near a Pride event in Idaho came as no surprise to those tracking hate groups who say they have seen a steady rise in hate speech and attacks directed at the LGBTQ community.
These aren't isolated. We can see a pattern. I think it's something that we're going to have to continue to monitor very closely going into the end of Pride Month.
Sam Jones is with the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. The project found anti-LGBTQ+ mobilization in the U.S. increased more than 4 times from 2020 to 2021. This year's incidence of political violence targeting that community already exceeds the total number of attacks reported last year. The Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, some of whose members stormed the Capitol on January 6th, are some of the same groups targeting LGBTQ+ events.
Who brought the pedophile?
Earlier this month, authorities say Proud Boys members showed up at a drag queen story hour in San Lorenzo, California, shouting transphobic slurs.
These people should be put to death.
That sentiment echoed in Texas, but this time in a sermon at a church outside of Dallas.
They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head.
Extremism researchers say disinformation and a wave of legislation targeting the LGBTQ+ community is fueling the rise in attacks.
Through the rest of the year and going into the midterms, where I think this is just going to be one among multiple issues where far-right groups like the Proud Boys and others are going to be trying to ramp up tensions and ultimately possibly escalate violence.
Here in New York City, site of one of the largest Pride celebrations in the world this weekend, organizers are keenly aware of the rise in hate crimes.
It's disheartening. I think we're living in a pretty unprecedented time.
Why do you think that is?
I just think that the division and the rhetoric is at a whole new level.
Organizers say they have security measures in place for Pride. The city's police department saying it provides a significant and complex counterterrorism overlay to the events and celebrations around Pride. NYPD's alert posture in these matters has remained ever vigilant.
That was Jason Carroll reporting. He adds the Human Rights Campaign says in 2021, 25 anti-LGBTQ bills were enacted across the U.S., including 13 anti-transgender laws across 8 states. As parents do their best to keep their children safe from COVID, the County of San Diego is now also offering them resources for better health through literacy. KPBS education reporter MG Perez explains.
This man is the manifestation of an extraordinary psychic power.
10-year-old Luke Simon is practicing his reading with a Pokemon book. He'll be in 5th grade this fall and loves learning wherever he can.
Even though this is a Pokemon book, there are some things that are a little scientific.
Every year we have a summer learning program.
The County of San Diego is funding its Hooray for Reading summer program with help from its 33 libraries, the Health Department, and First 5 San Diego, an organization committed to promoting the health and well-being of young children. This summer, there's a website and resources that will help parents improve their children's health with books.
Really nurture the passion for early literacy and reading, because that really is the foundation for future academic success and even just life success.
You want to pick a book? What's that one?
Rochelle Kako is the mother of 2 young sons. She is a believer in the county's effort to improve her children's health, in addition to vaccinations and visits to a doctor. Medical data shows a child's brain is 90% developed by the age of 5.
But I wouldn't have expected that if I hadn't experienced it in real time or even heard from other parents that it does make a difference to have a library, to have the reading.
Literacy is not limited to a library building. A year ago, at the height of the COVID pandemic, the county made an investment in little free libraries, like you find in many neighborhoods. There are 40 of them scattered from North County to the South Bay. By next summer, that number will jump to 100 little free libraries.
Books cost money, frankly, and these are free to take. And the idea is you take one and leave one when you're done reading it. But if some of them end up in people's home library, that's good for kids, so that's fine too.
It worked for Luke, who, by the way, prefers the nickname Lukachu.
There's no other way. This is no ordinary tornado.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
Starting now, you might start seeing buses where you don't usually see them on local freeways. Sandag is allowing MTS Rapid buses to use the shoulder along parts of the 805 and 94 between downtown San Diego and National City. The 3-year pilot project started this morning. For now, the Rapid 225 is the only route taking this step. Bus drivers can now use the shoulder during peak travel times when traffic slows to less than 35 miles per hour. And starting tomorrow, San Diego's sidewalk vendors will face new rules that come with a bit of controversy. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer talked with those who will have to change how they earn a living. And I do apologize. We seem to be having some technical problems with that last story. We'll try to bring that to you in a bit. Today marks the first official day of summer, and for many that means it's beach time, but with critical shortage of lifeguards in some areas, warning are going out to be extra careful in the ocean. Reporter Mike Valerio looks at what's being done to keep families safe coast to coast.
To our south from where we're standing, the next lifeguard tower is approximately 30 miles from here.
For Wyatt Wernath, it's a desperate shortage which could put lives at risk. He served as a lifeguard in Cocoa Beach, Florida for decades, and he tells us families at lakes, pools, and beaches may now be on their own.
We're not able to protect the lives and souls that come to the beaches or the water parks or the ocean lake, open waters.
Experts say there's a critical lifeguard shortage across America. New York City just canceled all of its swim programs. Milwaukee County has fewer than half its pools open right now.
All hands on deck. No days off, working, hours.
Jesse Hernandez is on duty here in Commerce, California, where there aren't enough lifeguards even in Southern California.
How would you say the lifeguard shortage is affecting all of your programs here?
It's definitely affecting all our programs. In general, it's just affecting our swim lessons, our adult swim lessons, our lap swimming.
As for why up to a third of U.S. public pools could reduce their hours or close altogether this summer, some experts say interest in lifeguarding was already dropping when the COVID pandemic hit. It made the situation even more dire with canceled trainings and closed pools. Restaurant and retail jobs also often pay higher for less risk.
Good, Daniel.
To get lifeguards back, cities are handing out bonuses. In Phoenix, it's an extra $2,500. And here in Commerce, the city trains its smallest swimmers, as young as 8, on the water polo team to join the lifeguard pipeline.
So what we do is develop them for 10 years, and then when they graduate high school, we give them an opportunity to come back into the pool and be lifeguards.
It feels awesome to do a job like that, to know that you're here just in case somebody needs their life saved or you need to jump in to rescue somebody. It feels good to do that.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Well, we're watching an area of low pressure, which we're calling a coastal eddy, that will keep the coast cool into Southern California. We do have some brief warming that is incoming and ongoing across the mountains, more interior areas, especially across the desert Southwest. And then we do have a chance for some showers and storms into Southern California as we head throughout the midweek. But this is how it's been shaking out for our Tuesday. There's that coastal eddy, a little dip in the jet stream. So wildfire concerns with some windy conditions continue across places like Los Angeles, whereas we have some spotty showers and storms across more of the Southwest. I'd say across the Four Corners point south around Albuquerque, and then just shy of the Phoenix area. That's where we have those monsoon thunderstorms. Metro area for San Diego tonight, though. Notice how that thick marine layer keeps our temperatures around 67. Those clouds holding on, and especially into the interior. Everyone kind of staying into those mid-60s, low 60s for Ramona, even Borrego Springs, 77, Mount Laguna falling back to around 63. More moisture that is developing from the south to the north and spreading a little bit more into, I'd say, eastern Arizona throughout your Wednesday. It's quite hot, though, across the Sierra Nevada, and then across the Great Basin. That warmth will continue to build and drift a little bit more to the east. But here's the clouds that I mentioned, especially across the San Diego County area, and then areas to the east, and also those spotty showers and storms, maybe an isolated thunderstorm and a downpour that we can expect for our Wednesday. So a place like Borrego Springs, 103 for the temperature, chance of a shower or storm in the forecast. Mount Laguna, 75. El Cajon, Ramona, temperatures will be in the 90s. In San Diego, you will even feel that bump up in temperatures for tomorrow. So you'll be feeling that for your Wednesday with some sunshine returning around the coast. Cooler, though, as we take it into the weekend, and you can see temperatures remaining steady into those inland areas. Very hot and warm. Temperatures in the upper 80s across the mountains, 70s in the forecast, keeping it a little bit on the cooler side, but triple-digit heat is on across the desert. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
Now we want to bring back that story that we weren't able to bring you earlier. Starting tomorrow, San Diego sidewalk vendors are experiencing some controversy. Here's KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer.
San Diego's sidewalk vending ordinance will change how, when, and where street vendors can operate. District 2 Council member Jen Campbell led the push for the new rules. She says they strike a balance of improving health and safety and providing economic opportunities for the vendors.
There became so many vendors, and it became a problem of finding enough space for the public to be able to enjoy the open spaces, the parks and the beaches.
While the new rules will be fully enforced at Balboa Park and in the Gaslamp District, there are going to be limits in San Diego's beach communities. That's because the California Coastal Commission must review the ordinance before it can fully take effect in those areas. So far, the item hasn't made it on their agenda. That worries Ocean Beach Main Street Association's Denny Knox.
Because really, it's robbed our community of our beachfront.
She says they've seen vendors take over the middle of sidewalks and parking lots, and in a few cases, the police have had to get involved.
I mean, there are people who say, well, I'll never go down there anymore. I don't take my kids down there. That's not right.
Jenny Santos is a street vendor who does henna tattoo art. She says she's not totally sure what the changes will mean for business, but understands the need for some rules. She says some situations were getting out of hand in places like Mission Beach and Balboa Park.
People are paying other people to save their spots. They're leaving up their tents overnight. So they're paying homeless people to sleep in certain areas. They're chaining their stuff down. Like, it's getting a little wild.
Street barber Izoya, who asked for his last name not to be used, says he feels the extra rules are punishment for people who are trying to make a livable wage.
I feel like when you already taking people that don't hardly have much and you try to impose all of these different things on them, it's kind of counterproductive. It's like on the one hand, you're saying, hey, we're allowing street vendors to go out and do free enterprise, but then you create a whole bunch of rules that kind of make it difficult.
Mission Beach business owner Matt Gardner says public spaces in some brick and mortar stores like his own have taken a toll from the lack of street vendor regulations.
Where most of the problem is here in Mission Beach, and we are affected probably the worst in all of San Diego, it is right in front of my door. I roll up my door every single day and I see this hundreds of canopies and people selling stuff right in front of our faces. Some of the same stuff that we sell.
And Mike Trimble of the Gaslamp Quarter Association says the ordinance should bring some relief if it's enforced properly.
On any given weekend in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, we could have either between 40 and 60 hot dog vendors on 5th, 6th, and 4th Avenue. So the entire Gaslamp Quarter has got just an over-proliferation of these unregulated hot dog vendors.
Campbell says the first year of the ordinance will be like a trial run.
There will be a report to the City Council, and every year it can be fixed and changed. Just as when we passed the law, we changed the permit fee from $236 down to $38 because it seemed that would be more fair for the vendors.
The street vending ordinance takes effect June 22nd. Santos, the henna vendor, says people may test the enforcement.
It sounds like a lot of vendors are going to plan on just vending anyway and setting up and just getting the warning and then seeing if they get a fine or like what happens. But I don't think people are really planning to stop because, again, a lot of people, that's like their livelihood and that's all they are getting money from. And it doesn't sound like people are ready to stop.
But not stopping could cost a vendor hundreds or even thousands of dollars in fines and impounded equipment if they keep breaking the rules. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.